He was one of the most electric scorers the NBA had ever seen, but also one of his most misunderstood. Gilbert Arenas, age of 0. Once a walking bucket in Washington, later the face of a scandal. A player who went from all-star starter to league exile seemingly overnight. But what happens after the lights go out? What does it look like when the game leaves you? This is the story of how Gilbert Arenas fell from grace and still found a way to win. Before the fame, the points, the controversies, there was a kid sleeping in his car. Gilbert Arenas grew up in the rough parts of Los Angeles, raised by a single father who worked odd jobs to keep them afloat. He was never the biggest, strongest, or most hyped player. Coming out of high school, nobody expected him to even make it. Even at Arizona, he wasn't a lottery pick, just another undersized guard with a chip on his shoulder the size of the Staples Center. Drafted 31st overall in 2001 by Golden State, a second rounder who wasn't even guaranteed a contract, Gilbert walked into the league as a nobody and turned himself into somebody through sheer force of will. In his second year, he won Most Improved Player, but it wasn't until he got to Washington that he exploded as a player.
Kobe said he's gonna shut you down. I was like, if you try to guard me like normal, I'm gonna just go 1-4 flat, right? That was my thing. Like, you want to guard me, then I'm just gonna isolate you and then put you on the island because I'm faster than you, right? I'm faster than you, I'm just gonna use my speed. So every time, hey, look, you get, he did this. All right, Smush, you go Deshaun Stevenson, I'm gonna go ahead and shut Gilbert down. Well, if this is their lineup, forget the 2 plays that we was gonna run, I'm going 1-4 flat. We're gonna make this an isolation game.
Agent Zero became a cult hero. Dropped 60 on Kobe's Lakers, hitting game winners like it was nothing. Ice cold swagger, no filter, easily became an icon of the early 2000s era.
And then I just caught rhythm early, so that by the time he switched on me, it was.
I actually hate that because Kobe's my favorite hooper.
That was your mentor, that was your guy though.
He respected because he watched me watch him through the process.
But behind the confidence, the spotlight was starting to burn. In 2009, everything changed. A locker room prank. A prank that went too far. Gilbert and his teammate Javaris Crittenton got into a dispute over a card game. That card game turned into an argument, and that argument ended with guns being brought into the Wizards' locker room. Gilbert, who was once a darling of the league, was now suspended for the remainder of the season. His reputation was shattered. Once the face of a franchise, he was now labeled a cautionary tale around the league.
Worst case scenario, I'm like Dennis the Menace, right? It's shit's fun, right? I'm like, that's what this was. Horrible decision, but it wasn't like I'm coming in there blazing guns and shit. Like, no, that wasn't me. That was never no intentions. It was, I wanted to call his bluff. I didn't think you're gonna do what you're gonna do, right? We're friends, like, you know what I mean? That's my guy.
Injuries didn't help either. Multiple knee surgeries slowed him down, and the Wizards had moved on. The franchise had drafted his replacement in John Wall with the #1 pick. So just like that, Gilbert was traded, bought out, and eventually faded out of the league. In just a few short years, Agent Zero went from a superstar to an afterthought.
I don't care what it is, you can't say locker room guy if you can't see me no more. And that was one of the reasons I walked away. It had nothing to do with, he's blackballed. I walked away because I don't want to do something great for you to use. This was the guy who brought guns to the locker room.
They said that he threw it all away, that he was a bust, that he couldn't recover. But here's what he didn't talk about. After leaving the NBA, Gilbert didn't just disappear. He adapted, in the background working relentlessly. He started speaking out more, owning his past, even laughing at his mistakes. He turned that raw, unfiltered personality into a brand, into content, into wisdom. He became a mentor to young players, shared his experience, his pain, his regrets, and he used it to teach others not to make the same mistakes that he made. Not preachy, just real and unfiltered.
Because we don't have real history, it's not personal. Like, so it's like when before Gil's Arena started, I was like, hey, Kwame, said, we got everything going. Said, let's just team up. Let's just put some shit together. Nah, you bitch ass nigga.
Gilbert wasn't trying to reclaim the league or the status that he once had as the darling of the league. He was building something outside of it. A father, a businessman, a creator, someone who finally had peace with who he was.
But why you not fighting the world? You're trying to be successful in your own lane, but you gotta listen to what the dude in his basement tweeting you is? Like, what does it matter?
Because we're human, right? We're human, and we want to be appreciated for what we're doing.
In today's era of player empowerment and media platforms, Gilbert Arenas is ahead of his time. He showed athletes that your voice matters, that your story doesn't end at your final buzzer. Now, millions watch his podcast. He's shaping the culture. He's still staying authentically Gilbert, hilarious, blunt, insightful. His story isn't about perfection, it's about growth, about falling off and finding purpose. He may never be in the Hall of Fame, but in the eyes of his fans, especially the real ones, Gilbert Arenas already left his legacy. From second round pick to all-star, from scandal to redemption, Gilbert Arenas showed all of us that mistakes don't have to define you, unless you let them. This isn't just a basketball story, it's a human story. And sometimes, the greatest comeback doesn't happen on the court. If you remember watching Agent Zero light up the league, drop a like. And if you're into stories that go deeper than the highlight reel or misunderstood legends, hit that subscribe button. There's a lot more where that came from.